Welcome. This is the first episode of Pass the Cheese, Please. My name is Jackie. With us is our guest, Camille, who's one of my very best friends. The intention for this is, we're all kind of feeling a little weird and a little lonely during quarantine and isolation and, whatever that may look like for you. We are in the US, and so we have slightly a few more restrictions that are going on compared to other countries who have kind of gotten everything together. So this is kind of a hope that maybe, you'll feel a little bit less lonely. I have a cheese plate with me right now. That's, sort of the past the cheese. Feel free to eat along with it or not. It's totally up to you. You don't have to do a cheese plate. You can if you want to. And we're kind of hoping that this will just be a safe place that we can have conversations. Whatever that may be. Sometimes it might be a little bit lighthearted. Sometimes it might be a little bit heavier. I want to, make this a comfortable place for everybody. I'm going to try and use this as a educational and learning opportunity for me, but I never want to feel a guest to feel pressured to do that, because we are in a time where we do need to relearn things. But that's also not on the shoulders of any BIPOC. It's up to people who are white like myself to take this on. I appreciate anyone who's willing to do that with me. Your time and efforts are appreciated and respected. That's not something you have to do, but maybe we'll talk about something a little less crazy, or a little less emotional. Anyway, so Camille, welcome.
Hi, Jackie. Happy to be here. Happy to be your guinea pig in our very first episode doing this.
I appreciate it. Camille is somebody who I bounce any and every idea off of. She has heard some of the most weirdest life plans that I've come up with myself, so I appreciate that she's willing to go on this with me.
Going on this journey with you. So I guess, yes, also, first disclaimer, I do have a fan going because right now we have a heat wave in California. So I apologize if that is irritating to anybody. I also have a cat.
So do I. She will make herself known.
Yes. His auto feeder goes off in half an hour, so he might be a little bit annoying before that. But yeah, so that is the world we live in. Yeah, that's the world we live in right now, where when everything's done over video is
yeah, and
very much invited into people's like personal homes and stuff. And
yes, yeah, it's a little, it's very intimate in maybe some ways that you're not always looking for. That's also something that I want with this project. I think a lot of people feel that what they need to do needs to be perfect or right or, exactly ironed out 100%. And, this is all a learning experience for us in whatever that may be, personal, professional, home, whatever, there are no rules anymore with this pandemic that's going on. And so I think we can kind of all take the opportunity to do whatever. So, it doesn't have to be perfect. Something that I've thought about, that I really ruminated with for a couple years, and is kind of part of the reason, or a motivating factor behind this, is one of my personally favorite podcasts, My Favorite Murderer, Georgia Hardstark. She says in one of the first, 50 episodes or whatever, she's like, just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just fucking do it. And I think a lot of us really struggle with that. I know I myself struggle with that, something that's really small. So I'm trying to create let's be casual, let's just have fun, who cares? Just enjoy yourself, life is too short to not do that. So don't worry if you have a fan on, is the moral of that story. And don't worry if your cat's automatic feeder comes on.
I know, because I don't even know where he went. Okay.
We look forward to, if he ever comes to make an appearance, we consider it an honor and we look forward to it.
Well, he's certainly ready for his 15 minutes. Okay, So should I like introduce myself more?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I know that you are doing a lot of good in this world, and what you do is very inspirational, and I'm very proud of you, and then proud that I get to know you. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, we can also talk about, you know, your favorite movie growing up. You know, it's up to you.
All right. Well, hello everybody. My name is Camille. Jackie and I go way back to meeting each other probably one of the first weeks of freshman year of high school. I identify as Latina, and I grew up in Santa Barbara. But I'm actually like biracial, so I'm Puerto Rican, Mexican on my dad's side, and my mom is mixed European, aka Caucasian descent. So yeah, I grew up in Santa Barbara and then moved to the Bay for high school, which is where I met Jackie and we started our wonderful friendship together. I guess since then, or no, let me restart with what I do now, I guess. So right now I'm an attorney and I work at a legal aid organization in San Francisco. Called Open Door Legal. Our mission is universal access to civil representation because those who may or may not know that you're guaranteed an attorney in criminal court. That's when you hear or you see on TV people read the Miranda rights. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Those are in criminal cases. It does not occur in civil trials. And most people experience civil issues daily, but the lucky folks and a majority of folks don't experience a lot of criminal matters. So everything about housing, debt, employment, family law matters, all of those things fall under the civil law umbrella. And so we really focus on low-income communities in the San Francisco area. Just to make sure that we're available as a free resource for people there who need to assert their rights when it comes to maybe being evicted or losing their job due to discrimination or sexual harassment, not getting paid their fair wages, domestic violence, like runs the gamut. So I really like what I do. I really feel like we make a positive impact in the community. And one of the things that I get to do that I really enjoy as well is be more on the holistic side of things. So people who are experiencing maybe like a mental health crisis, or they also, maybe they have a family law matter, but they're also like homeless, helping connect them with the other resources that are available in the community. So it's people come to us just for a legal need, but obviously for many low-income communities, it's never just one need. So if we can be the connecting point, I find that really amazing and impactful. So yeah, it's a little bit of what I do on the day-to-day for my job. And I really like it. I'm also like just a really big nerd, so I love learning about the law. I love learning about like what our rights are. I love going to like conferences and meetings where we talk about like policy and pushing for new legislation and things. So yeah, that's a little bit about. That's how I kind of got into the law. It's like I just really find all that stuff fascinating. So yeah, that's me. I'll stop talking now. That was a lot.
Yeah, so up until about 5 years ago, I lived in the Bay Area, California, close to Camille. We, you know, moved around a couple different places, but you know, we were always within 20 minutes of each other. And there would be several times that I would, her law school was in the city, and so I'd go to the city, and I should say San Francisco for some people, when you're not a local like me, you know. And I would go into San Francisco and meet up with her and her law school friends. And I consider myself like fairly intelligent, but this was like a whole other level, you know. And it was so like so cool, but also like little kid hanging out, like little sibling hanging out with their older sibling, just like they were talking about things that I just like couldn't even wrap my mind around. And it would just be these passionate conversations, and you know, like maybe you could argue that's a stereotype for people that who are in law school, but it was always really so
So
I
we just argue with each other all the time
yeah
about cases that are no longer relevant. Yeah.
yeah, so it was just always like a fun new, you know, I used to kind of say that I like to surround myself with people that were smarter than me. And then I realized that that was, you know, maybe not the best way to phrase it, but I like to surround myself with people with different interests. And Camille and her law school friends were definitely people who had different interests than myself. You know, I also feel very strongly about the organization that Camille works for, and you know, the stuff that it's doing, and I think it's amazing. And had I, you know, more applicable skills, I would definitely want to offer my those to it. Yeah, I think they're doing, you know, what is needed, and I think a lot of people, you know, they're everyone just thinks something is one thing when really it's a whole thing, and there's so many assumptions that are made. And you know, with people who are like Camille, you know, they're helping to actually get answers and help. So good job.
And I'm really lucky because I get to help people, and I also, you know, I've only been a lawyer for a couple of years, I think 2 at this point, but a lot of new attorneys who end up going like a private law firm route are working like 60 to 80 hours a week. But in the nonprofit world where I'm at, like I get to clock out at like 5:15, and like it's encouraged to have that work-life balance, just especially because we work with people who have experienced a lot of trauma, that the like threat of like vicarious trauma or burnout is very real. So yeah, like really making sure that I also get to have a work-life balance is really nice, and one of the things I also appreciate about the organization I work for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get time to also devote to all of my many hobbies. So I'm really fortunate with that.
Well, I'm also trying I realized I maybe should have done this earlier. I don't know. There are no rules. So I'm trying to attempt to have 2 segments with this project, whatever it looks like. First one is called Pass the Cheese. And so my intention for that is like to give some kind of compliment. Maybe it'll be really cheesy sometimes, but you know, always some genuine compliment about my guest. And then the other one is wine about it, because I've also considered maybe having some wine pairings with the cheese plate that I am eating. I'm not gonna, you know, force anything on the guests. So I think that I've given you a couple compliments already, but I definitely want to give you another one. You are somebody who always, yeah, you live your life with this kind of no fear attitude, but everything that you're doing is like, you're very cognizant of your surroundings, and it's not like this impulsive, like, I don't care about the repercussions, but you look at things very carefully and critically, and you're like, okay, like what is the best choice for me, or what is the best choice for this situation? And you go through that with no fear. And I think that's really incredible and really admirable. And it's one of the things I love so much about you, and I'm so glad that you're in my life.
So sweet, thank you. Yeah, I think it's really nice to hear that, and I think one thing I will say is that yeah, I do have fear of things, but fear I don't think is my my driver, which is really good, because if fear is your drive in the driving seat, it's the motivation is like is out of fear. You know, you're gonna get stuck, and it can lead people to freeze and not make the decisions that need to be made. So I definitely have fear that like maybe I will make the wrong decision, especially if I'm, you know, giving advice to a client or something, or that'll give the incorrect advice. But I think that you know, there will always be a possibility that you don't know everything. And being okay with that and being open about that, and moving past that fear is what we all have to do. in order to really help people and move forward in our own lives. So thank you. I think that's one thing I've been trying to do as I make my path in the world.
And I'm asking because this is something that I personally have like struggled or felt the pressure with. Do you feel comfortable telling people I don't know ever? Like when it comes to your professional life?
Like having to tell a client, I don't know. Yeah. So I think I do think in the beginning when I was just starting out, like, I was really afraid to say that because then I thought, oh, they're as a new lawyer, they're already, you already are held to maybe a higher bar, or they doubt your ability or your skill. So I really didn't want to say I don't know to anything, or it would just be more confirmation that like I couldn't do my job, or I couldn't help, or something like that. And so I ended up like doing so much prep before meetings to try to like find all of the answers for any possible question someone would ask, just so that I was fully prepared with that. But definitely as you get more comfortable and people bring things up that are more complicated, because obviously you can't research every single thing before you meet somebody, and maybe they say something that's like completely unexpected and changes everything. That it could go into an area where maybe I'm not as familiar, and I have had to get comfortable telling people, I think it's this, but I'm not 100%, and I'd love to do some more research and get back to you on it, just because I wouldn't, and I tell people that as like, I wouldn't want to give you any incorrect advice that you would rely on and then would be detrimental to you. So I try to very much, if I tell people I don't know, I try to couch it in the way that like, we don't know everything.
Because
we do have to do research a lot of the time. But that's okay. And that it, just because I can't give you an answer doesn't mean I'm not gonna like try to find the answer for you. So I definitely have gotten more comfortable doing that, as I've also been like trying to help in more areas of law that I don't have as much knowledge or experience in. So I've had to get comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I think I put this pressure on my own person. Like, I don't think that anyone necessarily did it, but then I also look back and I think about the work environments that I started off in, and maybe they were not the most healthy. And so I think it was kind of, like I was already probably doing it myself, and then, where I was, it demanded that of me. And so like it was only like fairly a couple years ago that I was like, oh, I can tell somebody I don't know, and that's a perfectly acceptable like response. And then of course, follow, like, don't just be like, I don't know, and then walk away. Like, follow it up with like, oh, like, let me look into that, or let me go ask somebody, like having the extra steps. Because I think especially like this day and age, like especially at the time that we're in, I know that I struggle with this. I don't want to speak for you, but trying to be more, involved, and trying to be, like call myself an ally and also back it up. Like, there is this pressure to know everything and to be perfect. And like, anytime you go into like maybe a discussion with somebody who is, you disagree with, like, you're like, I need to know all the facts. I need to have all this perfect stuff. And that's, sometimes that's not realistic. We have this pressure on ourselves to do that. Like I said, I know that and so saying things like, I don't know, or, also being willing to like a couple weeks ago, right after Jacob Blake was shot, I had posted something on my Instagram stories, or should I say like Grinstagram, because they're not paying me to advertise here, so maybe I shouldn't give them a direct shout out. But I posted something to my story, and I had written the name Jacob Black instead of Jacob Blake. And a friend was like, oh, hey, by the way, like, this is the name. And I was like, and then I was like, what can I do? Like, I can delete this and pretend it never happened and be like really embarrassed and like hope that, at any moment someone's going to call me out on it. But I was like, you know what I can do? I can, post the story that I did it wrong, cross it out and be like, oops, I said the wrong name, like my bad, like do a you know, and
Yeah.
not that I think that I'm changing the world because I changed this story, you know, but also normalize that it's okay to make these mistakes as long as you know, and then you can have these respectful conversations with people where somebody feels comfortable saying like, hey, I just want to give you a heads up, you used the wrong last name, and then you can be like, thank you very much, and change it.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's like, we're in such a weird point in time where we're both like very isolated. So well, I'm like physically at home. And so much is being done on, you know, our other sources of information like social media, that it feels like in order to connect with everything going in the world that you have like to constantly be updating yourself on like the news and social media and checking all these platforms to like make sure you're not missing anything. And I've been finding that like, you know, I am very busy at work, and then I'm probably less involved on social media. And I haven't been checking as much. I haven't been checking news things. So like sometimes when things do happen, it's because like I'm finding out about it a little bit later, and somebody's telling me about it because they'll have said something, and I'm like, I'm not familiar. What happened with this? And so maybe it's like not in the sense that like I don't care about what's happening in the world, but in the sense that like I kind of focus a lot of my energies on work, because we're still open at this point. We're essential services for people. So I focus so much of my energies on that kind of at the end of the day when I unplug, I really want to just like unplug and like decompress. Because I do think that there's a point where people can get like oversaturated with like distressing or negative news, that maybe that could then start affecting mental health. And that's something, because that would be that if my mental health is affected, it would affect my clients, that I've been trying to make sure I'm very aware of not doing that. So yeah, I think the best thing is if you aren't aware of something that's happened and somebody takes the time to like teach you about it or educate you about it, rather than you know, tell you you're canceled because you haven't heard about this one thing, or tell you like shame you for that, then like I don't think that's going to make people feel good or make people want to learn more about what's happening in other parts of the world. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
that you have, Camille. I'm very like good for
yeah.
you for doing that. And I should also say I have been furloughed for a few months, and my furlough is going to continue for a while. So I have plenty of time to be on all social media and like learn stuff. So this is not a dig on anyone who is working a full-time job, because not only like are we going through, like we're going through a global pandemic, and that in itself is like the most high stress, high anxiety situation that we have been in forever, and like in any of our lifetimes, you know, arguably. And then we have this civil unrest. We have the USPS that needs to be saved. By the way, like make sure that you're registered to vote. I will put a registration link, you know, in this information, because you need to make sure that you're registered to vote. Only vote once, don't vote twice. Voting twice is illegal, no matter what 45 says. You're registered to vote. Yeah, so like it truly just seems
yeah.
like
And as an attorney, I can say, although this is not legal advice, doing something illegal to try to prove a point is not really a defense. So don't do that. But again, I'm not your attorney. Don't
right.
consult with a representative if you have questions about your situation.
Well, I will say we're kind of around like that 20-ish minute mark. I don't exactly know. I'm trying to keep these about 15, 20 minutes, so nobody on any end feels too overwhelmed. I am interested if somebody could help me. What is the best way to describe things for anyone who is like hard of hearing, for both like social media and maybe like what is going on in the video? That is an area that I have not very much expertise in. And so if somebody is willing to educate me, I would very much appreciate it. Camille, thank you so much for your time.
I think you can add captions.
Okay, for
I
what's
think
going
that's one
on.
way.
Wonderful. That's good to know. But I also mean for like, or maybe I shouldn't have, nope, not, well, hard of hearing, yes. I also mean to ask about vision impaired. So like if I post something on social media, what is kind of the best way to handle? I've learned that with hashtags, I think for people who are vision impaired, if you capitalize every single word in it, like Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter. If you capitalize the B, the L, and the M, that's how it registers different words as opposed to just like a whole run-on word. Um, I've heard that. I can't confirm or deny anything about it. But if somebody is willing to take the time to educate me on that, I would be very appreciative. I want to make sure that anyone and everyone kind of feels that they can access this in whatever capacity they want to. Camille, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming here and doing this with us today. We'll kind of see how it goes. Is there, if you want me to include anything for like what your organization does, or if you want to plug like any personal social media stuff, like if you want people to start following you, please feel free, but also no pressure.
Most of my stuff is private. My social media is private. So
I mean, I guess you are an attorney, so maybe it's probably a good way to handle
it. And I can put a link to my my work, Open Door Legal, so that if anybody wants to know more information, they can kind of look at it. They can check out our website. If you are in the Bay Area, we love volunteers. So if you would want to help out, there's also, I think, a link on the website for how to do that as well. So thank you, Jackie, for having me. I'm glad we had a chance to chat.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
I don't know if we did your wine.
I know.
Part, but
I kind of, we're seeing how it goes. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. I don't even have wine today. So. But like podcasts always seem to have segments, and this is kind of what I'm modeling that after. But this is a medium, so maybe it won't work. So we'll see. We'll keep a look-see-goosey. See what happens.
Yeah.